Alright gang, welcome back. Today we're going to take a look at spread triads. Let's do it. Alright, so if you've been following along, I've been going down this whole triad path here, and you know, we're far from done. There's lots of great things that you can do with triads. We talked a little bit about taking 1, 4, 5 triads in the key of C, C, F, and G, and moving those around in different inversions on different string groups, and really getting some hip sounds out of that. You can use that for comping, you can use it in modes, you can use it in your lead playing. It's super great. We're going to continue with that. We're going to evolve it a little bit into what is known as spread triads. So spread triads are just what they sound like. They're kind of spread out across the strings. So you have close voicing triads and spread out triads, and I'll give you an example. Okay, so we have a C major triad here. That's just coming from this C major cowboy chord. And I'm just going to play it on the D, G, and B string for now. And that works out to be an inversion, but it's still a C major triad, of course. Now, if I take the open G string here, that G note that I'm playing with the open G string, if I pop that up an octave, then I get still a C major triad, but now it's kind of spread out amongst the strings. Okay? And that's what a spread triad is, and there's different ways of playing them. Of course, I could take that note that's on the high E string here, and I could also put it on the low E string. So I love that sound for sure. Now, let's say if we want to do it for C, F, and G. So if I wanted to stay on these strings here, I'd have to do quite a big stretch here for F. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that C note there and I'm going to put it on the G string, so it'll be, and then G will be here. So we got C, F, G, then we have another C here, then another F, and a G here. Alright, and then we have C again. Alright, and then F would be G again. Alright, so I know that's a little tricky to see on the guitar, but I actually wrote this stuff out, so let's go over and check that out. Okay, here's the exact shapes that I was just playing. We have a C major triad here, a spread triad, and you can see here's the tabs, and it's split out, and I kind of used the chord shapes too as a visual guide here. Now, you notice that we're only playing 3 notes, but they barred this, so however you want to do it. If you want to separate the fingers, or if you want to bar it and just not play the B string, that's a total great option. And then we have G. Now this one here would be another C, but this would be a 5. On the D string would be G, that's the 5th on the 5th fret. And then the major third would be on the same fret on the B string. And then that root tone would actually be on the 8th fret of the high E. Alright, so that's another C major triad. Then we have an F major spread triad in the same form as the C down here. And then we can move that up to G here. Okay, and then we can also play another one of those C major kind of spread triads here. And then F, G, and then back to C again. So we've got and so that's really getting us some nice open sounds, and when played against a track, that would be a really great way to kind of add some spice into your comping. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of put it in a modal context, and I'm going to put it over a G kind of Mixolydian backing track. G Mixolydian is essentially C, and just experiment and use my ear and play around and see what kind of sounds I can come up with. Let's check it out. All right, sounds pretty cool. Just gives you some other avenues. And, you know, if this sounds a little bit like, say, Eric Johnson, it certainly is a tool that Eric Johnson uses quite a bit in his arsenal. So if you want to get a little bit of that into your playing, this is a great idea. Okay, like I said, you can also take the note, and this goes for anything on the guitar, by the way, but, you know, something that most people just doesn't, you know, kind of register with is that you can actually take the note that's on the high E string and put it on the low E string. It's basically the same note, right? All right, so if we take the note that we were playing on the high E string and we pop it down to the low E string, like right here, we're going to get this kind of a little bit richer, a little deeper sounding. And that sounds really cool. Now, if we want to play F, remember we were playing it like this. So we're just taking that A note and we're putting it on the low E string. So we've got C, and we've got F, there's G, okay, and then here's another C, then another F, there's another G, and then another F, and we're getting a little bit up here on the guitar. All right, so there we go. These are really cool because they're kind of rich sounding to me, and they're harmonically kind of dense sounding, but they're only really 3 notes, so they can sound really cool. Let me just play a few of those over the backing track. It won't sound quite as hip, I don't think, because we might be tugging against the root tone, that low bass note a little bit, but just I'll throw it in there and see what it sounds like. Let's check it out. All right, just another way to comp there, just kind of moving those chords around. I'm just using my ear. Of course, we're playing over G7, so even though we're in the key of C, which is just G Mixolydian is the 5th mode of C, I'm kind of, you know, resolving everything back to the G a bit because that's kind of where the tonal center is, but I'm still just using C, F, and G triads. Of course, with these new kind of interesting spread triad shapes. Let's look at a couple more. All right, so some of these are, you know, can be fingered a number of different ways. So I'm trying to keep them pretty close to kind of the same string groups, but sometimes you make your own decisions on how you want to kind of finger things. So the first one is just basically like a C chord, where you're playing the C note on the 5th fret of the A string, and then the open G and the open high E string. So if I wanted to make that F, and then there would be your G. You could also make it like this. This is a very common way. This is kind of like, it's almost like a C power chord, but you just play the root 5th here. So you could play it that way too. Yeah, the more ways the better, I think. That's probably the more common way, but like I said, I kind of wanted to keep things on a similar string group. So you notice the F chords, we have C, and then the F, see, is kind of on the same string group. So that's kind of why I fingered it that way, but you can make your own choices. And then G would be here. Okay, so the next C would be actually an inversion. And then that F again. And then G. All right, and then another C here. And then F. And then G. And then we're kind of back to where we started. All right, so we got C, F, G. Then C, F, G. And then C, F, G. Back to C again. All right, so those are some other shapes that you can use kind of in the middle. The first one I talked about was a little bit more on the top end of the spectrum, and then the next one was a little bit lower sounding with some of the low notes on the low E string, and these are kind of somewhere in the middle. And again, I would say experiment with some of the fingerings on those to make them, you know, fit however you want to play them. But let's check it out over that track a little bit. Right, that's pretty cool sounding. Lots of options there. Of course, you don't have to just stick to one. You can mix and match them any way that you want. I'm kind of just sticking to one of the shapes and moving them around, or a string group. But, you know, explore, mix and match them together. And a really cool thing is once you get them down is you can actually maybe incorporate them into your lines a little bit. And when you start doing that, then you start to get a little bit bigger interval jumps in your playing. So if you're somebody that uses a lot of close voicing triads in your lines already, you know, that's really cool. You get some interesting intervals that way, but now you can spread them out even more and just kind of open up your repertoire with that, you know. Let's do that a little bit over the track and just explore some of that. All right, so super hip, right? And, you know, really make something that sounds pretty simple, a little bit more interesting. You're not just kind of traversing up and down scales. You can use this in your comping, you can use it in your lead lines, and you have all kinds of different shapes and fingerings to explore. And there's more of this to come. So hang in there, and I will see you next time around. Cheers.